The Detroit Lions were just a half hour from their first ever Super Bowl appearance, and you guys may remember my reaction. I was quite devastated on what happened, man. We were right there. It was right within our reach, but yet we were unable to bring that opportunity to us. And although I was devastated, man, it's been 3 days shy of 4 months since that day. And while time doesn't heal everything, it can heal some. And I'm ready to move on for the 2024 NFL season, which is 106 days away. Now, we've been getting a lot of love in the media. ESPN, NFL Network, coaches, former coaches have been giving the Detroit Lions a lot of love during this offseason, and especially after our time getting as close as we did to the Super Bowl. Well, ESPN has been talking about the Detroit Lions, and I wanted to bring in this clip. We're going to bring in, this is ESPN on NFL on ESPN, Super Bowl or bust for the Detroit Lions, how NFL Live reviews how Detroit loaded up this offseason. And then we'll listen to this, and then we will discuss some thoughts after all is said and done. Let's hear what they had to say.
Okay, the Lions were 1/2 away from reaching their first Super Bowl in franchise history last season. They led the 49ers by 17 points at halftime of the NFC Championship before squandering that lead. This offseason, the Lions agreed to contract extensions with 3 of their best players on offense, and they revamped the defense, particularly in the secondary. Head coach Dan Campbell was asked if this upcoming season is Super Bowl or bust for the Lions.
I don't see bust. I see Super Bowl. I don't know what the bust is. So
Super Bowl or nothing.
It's, here's what I know, man. We all know what every team ought to have that, right? Every team ought to be like, man, what are you playing for? You're playing for a Super Bowl. So we're no different than that. But I think, we know that now. We work backwards from there. And so you got to set yourself up no different than last year. Certain things you got to do to really make that valid, make that a reality. So, and so that's, ultimately that's what we want to do. Now to do that, you better win the division. You got to give yourself the best odds you can, right?
I love how the reporter was like, no, I meant Super Bowl or nothing. Dan Campbell's like, I got it. Kevin, you spent a lot of time around the Lions. What's the sentiment about how far they think they can go?
What you see from that press conference is what everybody sees every single day in that facility. And I think some people look at Dan Campbell when they see a meathead. Believe that at your own peril. What he is jacked Ted Lasso. That's what he is. Every single day with the positivity. Ben Johnson basically loves coming to work there because he knows Dan Campbell believes in him and he believes in Dan Campbell. And I think you see that. And I don't think they're going to be mentally broken after a tough NFC Championship game last year. I think they understand the authenticity of that locker room. They understand keeping their core guys together. I think this team takes a step forward. I think that they are going to be exactly where they were last year and probably one step beyond. I think they're going to be real deal Super Bowl contenders all year.
One of the best fan bases, too, for that to happen, too.
Yep.
Really fast. Jason Sudeikis is somewhere like, wait, you mean I'm not jacked? Like,
hit the gym, buddy. Hit the gym.
Sorry, Jason. Catching a stray here on NFL Live. More on Dan Campbell from you.
Yeah, so this is somebody who's leaning into the bit a little bit because he's done everything, him and Brad Holmes, the GM, they've done everything needed to get this roster level up to a Super Bowl. This might be one of the best rosters in the entire league now. You got defensive pass. Defense was not good enough, so they upped their ante with Terrion Arnold in the draft. Added some pieces there, traded for Carlton Davis. DJ Reader is one of the sneakiest signings in free agency. He can really play a defensive line. So there's really no hole right now. They've paid Jared Goff. They've paid everybody else. Dan Campbell's going to be there a long time, so they're going to extend his contract. So this is a team that's locked in and really expects nothing less than where they got last year.
Yeah, they didn't feel like they had to go out in free agency. They felt like they had the players on their roster already to have the success they're looking for. Mina, how do you think they need to get over that playoff hump to make it to the Super Bowl this coming season?
Yeah, I think that it's about the defense, particularly the pass defense, because the run defense was quietly excellent last year, second in success rate against the run behind only the Patriots. And Jeremy mentioned this, adding DJ Reader on the defensive line, one of my favorite additions of the entire offseason. But the pass defense ranked 28th in EPA per play, allowed the second highest yards per attempt in football. A lot of that was due to injuries on the back end, as well as some inconsistent play from their rehauled secondary. So they rehauled it again. And I think a lot of the additions they made were with an eye towards playing more man coverage, which we know their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, likes to do, And they don't have to pan out immediately. You draft 2 cornerbacks, Terry Arnold and Registraw. They don't have to be amazing earlier on because of the cushion that offense gets you. But your hope is, by the end of the season, some combination of Carlton Davis, Arnold, Registraw is enough to fix a secondary that really struggled at times last season.
One funny thing about the effect Dan Campbell's had on this league is that in the coaching cycle last year, everybody was looking for a Dan Campbell type. And I was talking to people in the league saying, you can't find them. They don't exist. Either they're frauds and they're saying they're all about culture, or they're not even pretending to be about culture. Or they're just giving sort of a half-hearted answer when they talk about it. He is one of one. He is ultimately the culture coach in the NFL. Everybody wants one, but they cannot find one.
Yeah, and on top of that, and people don't know this because you mentioned that whole meathead perception, he's a very skilled offensive coach.
Yes.
He comes from Sean Payton, Drew Brees. So he has a heavy influence over the offense, still giving Ben Johnson his time. And they work so well together that Ben Johnson doesn't want to leave. He's had opportunities to be a head coach, stays there.
I think that's incredibly important. You think about all the opportunities that Ben Johnson had. He was one of the hottest names in the hiring cycle. And Kevin, he decided to just stick there. He probably feels like he's got the best chance to win a Super Bowl with the team he's already coaching in.
He feels like he owes a lot of his career to Dan Campbell. He started as an assistant tight ends coach in Miami, then a tight ends coach in Detroit. He's risen up the ranks. He's not going to leave Dan Campbell until it's absolutely perfect. And I think there's something to be said there. I mean, you mentioned the Sean Payton thing. Everybody talks about that 4th down decision. Say, oh, he was just trusting his gut. No, he was trusting analytics because Sean Payton taught him to look at the opposing sideline and see how scared they are. And if they're scared, keep going for it. Keep going for it on 4th down. So this is marrying football, the gut, and the analytics. Nobody does it as good as Dan Campbell right now.
Quickly, let's throw their schedule up because, Mina, I want your take on just the NFC North in general, who they're going to be going up against, how you see that playing out for them. You see some of the early games that they have, a chance, I think, to get off to a pretty strong start.
I agree. Obviously don't want to sleep on the Rams, particularly that offense, but I do think it's possible they come out of that first 4 before the bye with a winning record. The division is what concerns me, Laura. You alluded to this. I think this is going to be one of the better divisions in football, especially if the Bears improve the way we expect and the Vikings get decent quarterback play. So I am concerned about the division, and of course the Packers took that leap last year already, but the Lions remain the favorite.
Yeah, when you guys look at that schedule, what do you think, the gauntlet that they may have to go through? I mean, I agree they're the favorite, but there are some teams in the NFC North. It'd be great if the Bears were as good as we think they could be.
I mean, Jeremy, is the NFC North the 2nd best division in football? Best division in football? I mean, there are no gimmies there.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet because the Vikings are clearly in a bit of a mini transition. I still think they're very good, but Sam Darnold, quarterback, probably no promises there. The Bears with Caleb Williams, I still think have a ways to go. They could come along late. It's Green Bay and Detroit for me. So I don't know that it's a top-heavy division. So it's going to be tough to knock off Green Bay based on the way they were playing last year. Pound for pound, I'd probably take the NFC West or a few others.
All right, there you have it. So the Detroit Lions, Super Bowl or bust. The team has no doubt gotten better. Some good things were said about the secondary. I like how they said we overhauled the overhauled secondary because we know where that secondary got us last year with the addition of Cam Sutton. The other guy we brought in, Emmanuel Mosley, went down, and we were pretty much left out to dry. But there was a lot of good points. It's funny hearing the Detroit Lions being Super Bowl contenders. Right now, I think we are ranked 4th, pretty much the way the season ended with the Chiefs, Ravens, Niners, and Lions. We're the 4th ranked best team in football going into the 2024 NFL season. Some things that they said about Dan Campbell. First of all, nobody inside the city of Detroit thought that Dan Campbell was a meathead. Not a single one of us. There could be some other people outside of the city that said that he was a meathead and all of this other stuff, but he is definitely not. He coached under Sean Payton, a brilliant mind, a great coach, and that's where he gets his aggressiveness from, is from a guy like Sean Payton. So that's why we have the coach that we do. But the Detroit Lions are in good hands. Let me know your thoughts about the Super Bowl. When Dan Campbell was asked about Super Bowl or bust, he said he just sees Super Bowl. And I think what he's saying there is there's no time for anything else. There's nothing out there. There's no other circumstance. Our mind is on the Super Bowl. There is no failure at this point. That is our goal. There is no other thing that we see. So I love Dan Campbell, man. Love to see that we're finally getting the proper credit and attention that our team has deserved for quite a while. And it's funny how one of the analysts said, and I felt that too, that during the coaching cycle this offseason, there was a lot of people that looked for a Dan Campbell type. And it's funny, and this is not a black or white thing, so I don't want anybody to come in the comment section with that type of nonsense, all right? But Dan Campbell, he said that the analyst said that everyone was looking for the next Dan Campbell. And I felt that same exact thing. And the closest that we got was Antonio Pierce. But what I liked about Dan Campbell and what the analysts and what people are noticing now is that Dan Campbell made it fine to be who you are. He made it okay to be genuine. And that gives Antonio Pierce and coaches behind Dan Campbell and Antonio the right to be himself. Because I'm going to tell you what, for everybody that likes to paint a picture of black or white, right? I think that Dan Campbell, he paved the way for a guy like Antonio Pierce to get a job being Antonio Pierce, right? Because Antonio Pierce, not that he's trying to imitate Dan Campbell, but he's simply being himself, which in turn kind of is like, okay, because Dan Campbell is 100% all the time. As a matter of fact, he might be putting on a little bit of a show having you guys think he's dumb. Or when I say you guys, I mean these people outside the city of Detroit and the Detroit organization. He is not dumb by a long shot. Anybody who talks to him will tell you that he's much smarter than people give him credit for. So one thing I say, man, is Dan, we love you. We love your aggressiveness, but sometimes, my brother, you got to take the points. But I hear what the analyst said. He said, Sean said, if they scared, go for it. Make them like you can see it. Look for that fear. And if they are scared, then beat up on them some more. I get that. And I respect that. I do feel sometimes you got to take the points, though. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions, is it Super Bowl or bust? For me, I'm going to say yes, in the sense of there's no other place to go. The only place we can go if we don't make the Super Bowl, the Detroit Lions will regress, right? We can get home field advantage. We can be first seed. We can get all the way to the NFC title game. But we got there last year being a lower seed. So for us, we got to make the Super Bowl. Anything less than the Super Bowl, in my opinion, is a letdown. So I think that I would say Super Bowl or bust, but I think it means Super Bowl or a letdown. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, this channel is made possible by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.